So welcome again, everybody, and thanks for your patience. We always like to get as many folks in here as possible. Today, our focus is going to be on kind of digesting the new Biden immigration reform bill. And so whether you've looked at it 100 times or today will be your first time, we have an opportunity to digest certain sections and share with that. But before we get into that, our good friend Bob Key, who many of you have met, whether it's through coffee breaks, Zooms in the morning, or his frequent attendance at these meetings. He does a lot of amazing work down on the Arizona-Mexico border with the Good Samaritans. Through Mary Jean, he shared with us some videos and photos of recent walks into the desert to drop water for in certain areas where we know migrants pass through. And so to kind of ground us in who we're really working for and with this morning, we wanted to spend some time to listen and kind of go on a little journey with them, since we can't bring everybody to the border with us like we normally would this time of year. So I'm going to play these two short videos and ask you just to kind of sit with that and reflect on what he's sharing and what we're seeing. And then we'll have time to share any of those feelings or thoughts that come up for you. So I'm going to share my screen here.
We've been hiking about a half a mile from the water drop. I just wanted to pan this area. As you can see, the bones that remain from a cow. Who knows what had happened here? We know that because there are deer in this area, there are mountain lions that are out here. But what I wanted to speak of is, migrants, when they die out here, their bones are scattered in many, many places. So it's very, very hard after time, often to even find them, because they get buried in the washes or under the sand, and they're just not located. So that's always an issue when people go missing and the families try to find them, is that they end up never being found. So now what I want to show right now is just some of the different elements that the migrants encounter out here in the desert. You can see we've got a wash, so oftentimes they're traveling through the wash, which can be difficult walking because of all the sand, and then today we've encountered a lot of mud out here. And then you can just see the vastness of this, of the desert, the surrounding desert. And this area here is relatively flat compared to a lot of the areas that we hike. But we've had information from migrants in Mexico that the mountains that you're looking at now, the Babar-Kivris, which are looking from this side, which is the east side of the mountains. When you get on the west side, it's the Tohono O'odham Reservation, and we're not allowed out there to do any water drops or any searches. So, but as you look to these mountains, people are coming over these mountains and then dropping down into these areas and walking east and northeast and north to either get picked up or continue on for many of them to Phoenix. And this, what we're looking at now is Kitt Peak Observatory. So now I'm going to move on over to a water, what we believe was an intentional water drop left by either migrants or perhaps their guide. And we've been out here, this is our third time coming to this spot. And I'm going to show you that now. And so today I'm with my friend Judith, who is a fellow Samaritan, Nogales volunteer, as well as volunteer in the immigration prisons. And when she and I were out here a few weeks ago, we discovered this drop. And as you can see, you are in the middle of nowhere. So what we discovered were the three black jugs. And the reason we believe this was an intentional drop by migrants or the guide is that these black jugs are purchased in Mexico. They're not sold in the US. So if someone was going to leave jugs here, they would be the clear jugs, that the other two jugs that you see. These are jugs that we brought out to leave because the first time we came out, the two jugs sitting in front were full. The one behind was partially used. Now they've all been used and one is almost completely empty. So traffic is coming through here. And that's our goal, is to find a location to leave water where people can find it. And, hopefully this may be a spot, and that's our goal today, is to explore further, to see if there are other locations where we can leave water. And that's our goal.
So I want to give everybody a moment just to kind of internalize, to reflect on what Bob was sharing, to put our thoughts toward the people who have been accessing that water and who will continue to. And I invite you to share any thoughts that come to mind, either on the mic or if you're more comfortable in the chat. We'll spend about 3 minutes.
One thought, Judy, who was in the tree, she was tying up food. You can't leave food on the ground. The animals will get it.
My thoughts go to the people who had come through there and drunk that water. And where are they now? Did they make it to their destination? What their life is like now? Are they in the Eloy detention prison? I just cannot stop thinking about the level of desperation it must take to motivate one to take this trip, to do this.
I was wondering how many miles from the place they started over those mountains and down the other side and through the desert. How many miles is that? Does anyone have a clue?
About where Bob was, we had walked up, and we walked 7 miles. just one way to get to the bottom of the mountain. We didn't go up it. But it looked to me like it was farther than 7 miles.
Yeah, it did to me too. Alicia, it looks like you want to unmute yourself, Alicia.
I can't find my picture.
Oh, you're okay.
You're unmuted now.
Okay. Well, I made that trip. It's called the Migrant Trail from Mexico, right the border, up to Tucson, and it's about 80 miles. And there were a group of about 90 of us who made that trip, and we did between maybe 6 and 12 miles a day to cover those 80 miles in a week. And of course, the hardest part is the heat that we went through. And unlike the immigrants, we had food, we had a truck that accompanied us, and people in different parishes from that area brought lunches for us. So there was no comparison what we did compared to what the immigrants go through. So it's one of the hardest things. And Sally, you said you can't imagine what would make someone try that trip. The conditions where they're coming from are 10 times worse or 100 times worse. So, and they do it a lot for their children too. So.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Do you
Lisa.
know, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you know if as they come over the mountain and up the 80 miles, this may be naive, but do they meet any good Samaritans along the way? People who kind of station themselves in different places to give them sandwiches and water? Do you know if that happens?
They leave some as close to Tucson as possible. Along the way, the vast interior of that, no. So you have to carry, gallons of water if you're going to survive. And that's what the immigrants do. They carry maybe, and you can imagine how heavy they are, even to carry 2. And some of them will try to carry 4. So it's tough.
Yeah. No More Deaths has a camp, and that's in the middle of nowhere, and it's called Bird Camp. And they do a lot of provide rest and foot care and blankets for migrants there. And there's a tiny town, and Loretto has helped this town, Arivaca. People helping people, and there are farms. It's desert, and they're there, and they have a little migrant camp or office that's filled with food and blankets and sweatshirts, and that's on the southern part. But it's between Tucson. It's about, I don't know, an hour from Tucson, maybe. I don't know.
And
And
if
that's
I
why-
can add, Mary Jane, Carlota from People Helping People has told us stories of helping migrants that in a way have just given up, like they're too dehydrated, they're too tired, they're too hurt, and then they end up coming out to the road or to the houses to ask for help because they have just given up and they know the border patrol will come by. And she's gone and she's given them water and food and defied the border patrols who say, don't talk to them, leave them alone. And she's like, these are people, I'm going to help them no matter what.
Good.
So stories about that. And we, at LECC, we support No More Deaths in providing funding, extra funding that we have, and also people helping people. And we put in for grants for them because they're really doing the on the ground work for these migrants.
And this might
Alicia, Alicia,
Well,
I
I was just going to say that one of the other things that No More Deaths does is to try to find as much identification when they find remains of people who didn't make it. And then they try to contact the people, the families back home where they were. But it's a horrible situation when families do not know if their loved ones made it or not. And oftentimes the message that they get from No More Deaths is the only word that they will find. It's really sad for them, of course.
thank you all for sharing your questions. Always grateful for the expertise we have on this call too. In this new calendar year, LACC has been planning what these spotlights will focus on. And so hearing your questions and really kind of where conversation goes helps us plan and invite guests. So I think we've talked about finding opportunities to highlight more of our partners like No More Deaths, like People Helping People. So I think this might be a good opportunity for us to see if we can get some folks who are working in those groups to come and speak with us. But thinking about what people are experiencing in the desert is really our motivation for looking at, and I'm going to segue here, the Biden immigration reform bill, because we know that while putting water and food out there helps some who pass, it does not, it just puts a Band-Aid on a problem. So I'd love to see just a show of hands, how many folks have been able to even just glance at the fact sheet or the 2021 Biden immigration reform bill. And it's totally fine if you have not. This just will help us with our next activity.
Yeah, well, I've seen it.
So it'll be a first look for many and a review for others. I'm going to share my screen here just for those who haven't seen it yet. And have no fear, I will not be reading this to you. But I want to acquaint you with kind of the organization because of what we're going to do next. So I'm going to put the link for this in the chat, and there will be at least one LACC member in every breakout room. So that you can decide if somebody would like to share their screen like I am, if that's easier for everybody. This is divided into 3 sections. The first one is about providing pathways to citizenship and strengthening labor protections. And you'll see there's several bullet points here. The second section is about prioritizing smart border controls. And the third, the last section, is about addressing the root causes of migration. And this is one particular area that LACC and many other partners were pleased to see addressed, especially in light of what we were just talking about. So what's going to happen is we're going to go into breakout rooms, and your breakout room will be named one of those 3 sections. And we're going to give everybody about 7 to 10 minutes to read or reread these sections and discuss kind of the key takeaways. What do you think is most important for everyone to know about what is in this bill? And so then when we come back together, you can designate a spokesperson or decide to all take small parts, but we want to share with the whole group and build our expertise so that we can rely on the experts of each section of a lengthier document. So any questions kind of about what we're going to do next? All right, so I put the link in the chat. And if everybody can take a moment to practice opening that.
I've lost it. I've lost it. I don't have the link anymore.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat one more time there. And don't worry if you're unable to get it, you'll be with an LACC member so that you can they can share their screen if anybody's having trouble. All right, and so if you'll just give me a few moments here, I'm gonna break us out into our breakout rooms. You're gonna see a little notification come up. And Zoom is being a little difficult for me right now, so thanks for your patience. All right, so you should have a notification to go to your breakout room. And again, the title of the breakout room tells you which section to read.
Unmute.
There we go. I'm unmuted. Who else we got in here? Let's see.